All right, guys. So we got to talk about another meltdown from the Trump News Network. I mean, CNN, who promised not to be the Trump News Network. However, they can't help themselves, okay? Because this Trump, Nick Fuentes, Kanye West, and Milo Yiannopoulos story is just too juicy for them not to cover 24/7, which is what they've been talking about all weekend. And because people were off this weekend, best believe it'll be covered at least for the next 2 or 3 days. That's all you're going to hear about, even though I've already talked about this twice. But again, that's what the mainstream media is talking about. And I want to react to this because Don Lemon goes into full-blown meltdown mode over this former Trump administration aide who happens to be Jewish, and the fact that he won't condemn Trump meeting with Nick Fuentes. Which, again, I think is something that is really being overblown by the mainstream liberal media. Trump was put between a rock and a hard place. I actually don't have any problems with Trump meeting with Nick Fuentes, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I think that this is a story that's really not a real issue. I think the real story is Kanye West running for president and trying to appeal to, some of the people that, do support Trump. I think that's actually a real story. This is not, okay, but they want to talk about it anyways. And before I get into this, I want to start by saying this. One of the most profound interviews I've ever heard in my life that really solidified my views on race and racism in America is an interview between Joe Rogan and Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis happens to be a black man. Now, again, I recommend anybody to watch that, right? In which Daryl Davis was a guy, I think he was a musician, and he met with the KKK, the KKK's a Klan leader, right? And basically, over time, meeting with this person, hanging out with the KKK, he actually was able to change their hearts in regards to race. And the reason why he was able to change their hearts is because a lot of people who have the same type of views that Nick Fuentes has, they're just ignorant, right? They haven't interacted with enough people to actually really understand the world. Right? So their worldview really does come from a place of ignorance. And this is why I don't have a problem with Trump meeting with people like Nick Fuentes, because him meeting with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West is the same reason he was willing to meet with all these black leaders, right? When he first became president. You guys remember that meeting at Trump Tower where all these black leaders came in and they spoke with Trump? Trump is just the type of guy where he's willing to talk with anybody, right? He was willing to meet with Kim Jong-un when prior presidents were not. I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. And even if I find that person deplorable that he's meeting with, or I don't necessarily agree with their opinions like Nick Fuentes, I don't agree with his opinions, but I don't think meeting with a person, having dinner with them and listening to what they have to say is inherently a bad thing. That's one of the biggest problems in our country, is that we're unwilling to sit down and actually listen to people that we disagree with. Even if you find their views to be deplorable or racist or anti-Semitic or whatever, that doesn't mean that you should not at the very least entertain a conversation. That's how you learn. And that is also how you change people's hearts and their minds, is through exposing them to different people and ideas. But see, what the mainstream liberal media wants to do is that they want to force Trump to disavow Nick Fuentes, okay, and to push Nick Fuentes back into the corner of the internet where he only interacts with people who think like him, which fuels more of the so-called hateful beliefs, right? That's what it does. And again, I just don't think that's right. That's not how you change anybody's mind. That's not how you advance race relations in this country. You do that through conversation and open debate. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play this clip here of Don Lemon having his meltdown.
So much for joining CNN this morning, sir.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
So why would he do it?
Well, you're asking me to get into his thinking, but what I can do is I can give you my perspective, which is unique, I think. You mentioned that I worked for the Trump administration. I did, and I'm proud of our record on many issues, including issues related to the Jewish community and the Jewish state of Israel. I am also a refugee from the Soviet Union and a grandson of Holocaust survivors. So I experienced systemic anti-Semitism directly and personally, which is why my family sought refuge in the United States. So, I can tell an anti-Semite when I hear one. And I can tell you with confidence that President Trump is not an anti-Semite. He also has this very strong record on issues that concern the Jewish community. I mean, we can start with any number of things like making it tougher to discriminate against Jewish students on college campuses.
Okay, sir, I understand that, but can we talk about Nick Fuentes, please? Thank you. Do you think it...
Donna. Classic Donna, okay? This is Donna Lemonade here.
Well,
I mean,
we
can
can
talk
talk
about
president
the issue of
to meet
anti-Semitism,
with
of
Nick.
course.
Do you think it was wrong for the former president to meet with Nick Fuentes?
So from what I understand, President Trump said he didn't know Nick Fuentes was coming. And Nick Fuentes himself, from what I understand, said President Trump had no idea who he was at the dinner. So look, let's just call Nick Fuentes for who he is. He's an anti-Semite. He's repulsive. His views are disgusting. And no one of any substance should give him any forum. It's frankly beneath President Trump to meet with him, of course.
Okay, so you're saying it was wrong for him to meet with him?
Well, again, he didn't know he was coming, but it's never a good idea to give anti-Semites a forum.
And what about Kanye West? He knew Kanye West was coming, and Kanye West has certainly made many anti-Semitic outbursts and statements, especially as recently as a few weeks ago.
See, this is where again, Don Lemon is being disingenuous here. He's fishing for something that, again, he's not going to get, right? Which is, he's trying to make this Jewish person admit that, well, Trump meeting with Nick Fuentes is wrong, right? Say it's wrong. Say he should disavow Nick Fuentes. He brings up Kanye West. And it's like, okay, Kanye has been on Chris Cuomo's show. He has been on Piers Morgan's show. He has been on so many different shows after he came out and started saying that stuff. Why is it all of a sudden that Trump is getting the backlash for meeting with Kanye or platforming anti-Semitism? Just because he's the former president of the United States. It's his house. He can meet with whoever he wants to meet with. And see, the response from the Trump administration here, I don't think is actually the right response. I understand why they're responding the way that they're responding because it's bad optics. But when has Trump ever gave a damn about optics? That's actually is why I like Trump, right? It's because he's not a traditional politician who cares about the BS from the media. Trump should actually just come out and say, I met with Nick Fuentes and so what? Clearly, I'm not an anti-Semite. Look at what I've done for Israel, okay? Clearly, I'm not anti-Semitic. I didn't know he was coming. Kanye, it's clearly, I mean, him and Trump have a relationship, just like Trump has a relationship with a bunch of rappers, apparently, right? So what, right? We didn't have a conversation where we sat around a table and started, talking junk about Jews or blacks or any other group. We talked about business. We talked about Kanye running for president. And it just so happens that Nick Fuentes was there. I didn't know he was there. Now, again, it is kind of hard to believe that a former president with Secret Service wouldn't know that Nick Fuentes was a part of the crew. But at the same time, who is Nick Fuentes? Nick Fuentes is a nobody. Let's keep it 100. He has a very small niche audience of people that listen to him. And what's funny is that these people are complaining about Nick Fuentes getting a platform from Trump when they're actually platforming Nick Fuentes way more than Trump is. Because if they just stopped talking about this story, the Nick Fuentes thing would go away. But it's because they're talking about the story, Nick Fuentes basically has become a household name because that's all they're talking about. So now more people that didn't know who he was are now going to go look him up and be exposed to his views that are so terrible, they're so bad. Again, I'm not saying they're not bad and terrible. They are. But again, if they're as dangerous as these people make it out to be, why are you making such a big deal about this? You don't know the gist of the conversation. You don't know exactly what they talked about. I don't think Trump knows Nick Fuentes. Trump, in fact, in the past has never met Nick Fuentes, never had dinner with Nick Fuentes, never spoke at Nick Fuentes' America First PAC thing that he has, right? Which you would think that Trump would. If he was in bed with these people like the mainstream liberal media claims, you would think that Trump would have met this guy by now. Clearly, he hasn't. Clearly, he doesn't know Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes said that, hey, I don't think Trump knew who I was. He didn't know I was Nick Fuentes. Now, specifically, he said that he's not going to say that Trump didn't know of Nick Fuentes, but he didn't know that Nick Fuentes was Nick Fuentes. I actually did watch Nick Fuentes and his response because it was quite entertaining. I actually did watch it. So I know what Nick Fuentes said, right? I also know that Nick Fuentes which is funny here because again, the guy is supposed to be a white supremacist and he's backing a black man, Kanye, who is unapologetically pro-black, right? In certain situations, he's backing Kanye for president, right? I mean, he could be using Kanye for clout. That could be it as well too. But again, he's basically moving on past Trump. It's kind of funny how it works. But my point is this. These are the same people who convinced us or try to convince America that Trump is in bed with people like Nick Fuentes. But it just so happened that up until now, right, Trump has never met Nick Fuentes. He doesn't know Nick Fuentes, which is evidence that Trump is actually not in bed with all these people that they claim Trump is in bed with. I don't think Trump actually knows of these people. I don't think Trump is actually related or connected to these people at all. But the mainstream liberal media has told us that he was. So again, it's no surprise to me that they are going out of their way to try to make this connection that wasn't there because they finally got what they wanted, right? And that's why I said it's bad optics for Trump. But again, Trump is Trump. And I think that it comes with good and it comes with bad, right? Even though the optics aren't good, I understand what Trump's heart is at. Because again, him meeting with Nick Fuentes is the same reason he was willing to meet with Kim Jong-un and a whole bunch of other people that, people don't necessarily like. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That means at the very least he's open-minded. Unlike CNN and Donna Lemonade and the rest of the mainstream liberal media.
Yeah, I think Kanye West sounds a lot like Louis Farrakhan. And, President Trump, I wish he wouldn't have met with either one of them, frankly. I think, but, if we're going to talk about mainstreaming of anti-Semitism, I think we have to be fair. If we're going to make Trump repudiate Kanye or his sidekick, I think we have to look at anti-Semitism in the halls of Congress from Rashida Tlaib, from Ilhan Omar, from AOC, from the
Rashida
entire
Tlaib,
Hamas caucus.
they are not president of the United States.
We have to look at the mainstream.
Sir, they're not the president of the United States.
Trump ain't president of the United States either, right? And also on top of that, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, who have said anti-Semitic things, or what you can call anti-Semitic. I'm not a fan of just calling everything racist and anti-Semitic. I'm just going along. But they actually have more legislative and congressional power than Trump has. Now, Trump obviously has more political sway, right? But they have more congressional power than Trump. So this is not illegitimate to bring up the fact that you have sitting members of Congress that have said things that are worse than anything that Trump has said about Jewish people. And I don't think that meeting with Nick Fuentes is inherently an anti-Semitic thing to do.
He's a former president of the United States, and this is not whataboutism. He met with an anti-Semite. So can we stick to the former president and not do whataboutism? We can talk about those other people when there are issues, but there aren't issues right now. So do you think it was, don't you think the former president,
wow,
considering what is happening, the investigation at Mar-a-Lago, the documents, the types of people who might have access to classified documents, beyond the anti-Semitism, you don't think the former president should know who he's meeting with and he's letting into his home?
Keep it 100. He probably did know. I'm going to keep it 100. Trump probably did know. I'll find it hard to believe that he didn't. But at the same time, again, he probably didn't care. He was probably like, okay, whatever. I'll talk with the guy. Not a bad thing. That's not inherently bad. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, I will give you that. Yes, of course, he should know who he's meeting with. He did meet with Kanye, and
but it sounds like you're making excuses for him. You're saying he should know who he's meeting with, but then you're saying, well, he didn't know. It sounds like you're making excuses for him, and there's no excuse for bad behavior. There's no excuse for anti-Semitism, and there's no excuse for being the former president and not knowing who you're allowing into a place where you have kept classified documents.
Yo, ain't it rich that Don Lemon is telling a Jewish man there's no excuses for anti-Semitism, right? Again, this guy is Jewish, and Don Lemon is trying to lecture him on anti-Semitism. Incredible stuff.
Don, I would appreciate if you didn't put words in my mouth. Here's what I'm concerned with. As a grandchild of Holocaust survivors, I'm concerned with the mainstreaming of anti-Semitism wherever it comes from. And I condemn Kanye's anti-Semitism, and I condemn.
Do you condemn the former
sidekick's
president for meeting with anti-Semites?
Sir,
you said you condemn anti-Semitism and the mainstreaming of anti-Semitism. Do you condemn the former president for meeting with anti-Semites, for entertaining anti-Semites and anti-Semitism?
Yeah, but that doesn't make him anti-Semitic, right? Meeting with somebody that has views that are deplorable doesn't make you that person. That doesn't mean that you agree with that person. I don't know why Don Lemon does not understand that concept. I really don't. But again, these are simple-minded people. They think that, well, if you are friends with this person or you associate with people that have different beliefs to me, then that means that you must like that person. You must endorse that person's belief, which is a simple, closed-minded way of thinking. Ain't it amazing how these people that's supposed to be so accepting and open-minded are some of the most closed-minded individuals in the world? They really are.
Let me just explain it to you this way, sir. I know the president is not an anti-Semite. He does not need to apologize.
I'm not asking you if he's an anti-Semite. I'm asking you if you entertain, do you condemn him for entertaining and meeting with anti-Semites? It's a very simple question.
Well, I'm trying to give you an answer that
it's a yes or no.
You wouldn't have met with him.
It's a yes or no.
Bruh, just say no, right? No. Him meeting with Nick Fuentes doesn't make him an anti-Semite. He can meet whoever he wants to meet with. Again, he met with Kim Jong-un. He met with other people that you could find to be deplorable. So what? That doesn't mean that he endorses his views. Who cares? That's what the answer should be. Again, Republicans spend too much time trying to dance around it when they should just say, and so what? No, he's not an anti-Semite. Okay, what else? That's it. That's all you got to say.
I didn't realize I was on a witness stand here, Don. Look, I'm trying to have a substantive conversation about a real issue like anti-Semitism, and you're trying to make it all about Trump. It's not about Trump.
Well, it is about Trump. We're talking, sir. We're talking about the former president meeting with an anti-Semite. How is this not about Trump?
Because it's about the anti-Semitism. It's not about Trump. It's about making sure that the issue of anti-Semitism is confronted in a substantive way, in which, obviously, I'm sure you're aware there's rising anti-Semitism in the United States and the world. It certainly is important for us to take it on. It is important for us to call it out. I am calling it out. I am saying he should not have met with Kanye West and a sidekick. What I'm also trying to point out, Don, is that it behooves you and CNN and every other press outlet to call it out when you see it, especially when it comes in the halls of Congress, especially when every Democratic presidential hopeful goes and kisses the ring of Al Sharpton.
CNN does that. And when the issue is someone in the halls of Congress or in the government who is trafficking in anti-Semitism, CNN will call it out. This is about Donald Trump meeting with a known anti-Semite and someone who traffics in anti-Semitism. This is not about any other people who may have trafficked in anti-Semitism. When they do it, we'll discuss it and we'll have you on to discuss that part of it. But no whataboutism. So let's stick to Donald Trump and Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. Okay? Can we do that?
Well, we are doing that, Don. But if you're going to make me, do a yes or no with you, yes or no, should Ilhan Omar be condemned? Yes or no, should Rashida Tlaib be condemned?
Omar or Tlaib.
Yes or no, should President Obama condemn Louis Farrakhan and Jeremiah Wright? Yes or no, Don?
This is not about Jeremiah Wright. This is about Donald Trump and Nick Fuentes.
Well, why don't you want to talk about the problem of anti-Semitism?
Because they're not meeting with them at their homes. They're not meeting with anti-Semites. They're not meeting with anti-Semites.
Well, I mean, Obama did meet with Louis Farrakhan. He sure did. So I don't know what Don Lemon's talking about here.
And the reason that you were invited on this program was to talk about Donald Trump this weekend meeting with known anti-Semites and whether you condemn it as someone who worked for the administration and who is Jewish. That's what this story is about. That's what you're here to talk about.
I see, Don. So if there's an answer that you want from me, why don't you tell me what that answer would be? That answer would be
one of not whataboutism. It would be one to directly address the situation at hand. It would be one to not, what about anti-Semitism? It's right. You think it's okay or it's wrong?
Bro.
Was it wrong to meet with him?
Don,
the answer is yes, it was wrong to meet with him. Should he have met with him? The answer is no, he should not have met with him. It's very simple.
Don, it's very rich when you're telling somebody who is Jewish, who has experienced anti-Semitism firsthand, who is a grandson of Holocaust survivors, what is an appropriate way to address anti-Semitism? Frankly, it's a little bit insulting.
It is insulting for you to think that I don't understand bigotry and racism, because I understand it. And if someone was a bigot or a racist, and you ask me about them, I will always say that it is wrong to traffic and meet with bigots and racists, regardless of what you might think about me and talking about a Jewish person. I'm not talking about the Holocaust. He's a Holocaust denier. You're bringing up the Holocaust. A Holocaust denier met with the former president who you worked with. That should be more insulting to you than me talking about how you should respond to it, how you should respond directly to it.
Let's take a step back, Don, and let's focus on the real issue of concern for both of us, which is there's a rise in anti-Semitism in the United States and the world, and we should not give a platform to any Holocaust deniers or anti-Semites wherever they are. And I think I don't think that the president should have met with Kanye or his sidekick, and I wish no one else will either.
You could have said that in the beginning. Thank you very much, Len.
Yeah, I mean, for as annoying as Don Lemon is, especially considering the fact that I'm pretty sure he would not appreciate somebody having that line of questioning where, you know, Don Lemon knows somebody that, you know, could have engaged in homophobia or racism, and then trying to tell Don Lemon, right, what he should and should not condemn as homophobic or racist. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't appreciate that. But that guy didn't do a good job of just saying, look, I'm not condemning it because, quite honestly, I believe that the president can meet with whoever he want to meet with. It doesn't matter if you find that person to be deplorable or not. It doesn't matter if their views are racist, anti-Semitic, sexist, or whatever. It doesn't matter. He can meet whoever you want to meet with. Just because you meet with that person doesn't mean that you hold those views. And he's not platforming Nick Fuentes. It was a private dinner. And more than anything, the media is platforming Nick Fuentes by making this such a big story. It's not that big of a deal. It's really not. But see, again, what happens is that Republicans run away from this stuff instead of just leaning into it and saying, look, it's bad optics. You guys are going to make it out to be more than what it is. But the president's clearly not anti-Semitic. He didn't know that Nick Fuentes would be there. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. And that's all you need to say. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.